Okay, good morning everyone. I'm JVA Martinez and today I'll going to discuss my PowerPoint presentation in CA 200 Institutional Correction. Module 1 Institutional Based Correction. First thing first, you need to know its definition. Institutional correction means any place designated by law for the keeping of persons held in custody under process of law or under unlawful arrest in Article 269 of the Revised Penal Code, including state prisons, local jails, juvenile detention centers, and other facilities operated. So, institutional correction is pertaining upon the local jails, rehabilitation center those persons who really need a special treatment for them to recover, such as in mind or who have a severe illnesses, and pertaining upon the local jails, those persons who committed crimes, basically those persons who committed crimes, then they really need those consequences upon the crimes that they have committed. This picture represents in a court where your crimes will be corrected. What are the purpose of correctional institution? First, it focuses on rehabilitation and regards inmates as patients. Based on what I've said a while ago, those persons who really needs a special treatments for them to recover will be under rehabilitation area or center rather. Second, it keeps our society at large safe by separating them from individuals who have committed crimes. Of course, those persons who committed crimes, then basically they will be separate those consequences, right? So their cases will be under the court if they'll be guilty or not. Of course, they will depend upon the things or the crime that they have committed. Third, it removes the highest percentage of the person to commit more crimes. Later on, we're going to discuss the kinds of repetition, when would be the precise time that we're going to call it as recidivism, reiteration, habitual delinquency or also known as multi-recidivism, and quasi-recidivism. This is the kinds of repetition rather, if that certain person committed crime twice, thrice, and many more. Correctional system in the Philippines. Prison conditions in the Philippines is definitely poor. Since prison's life is such severe, there are a lot of conflict cases and issues for the inmates and the jail at the same time. Before and while serving the sentence, they will experience those following issues. So basically, our correctional system in the Philippines is not perfect. There are a lot of severe issues they are facing right now, right? And these are the following cases that they have right now. A. Increasing of population or overcrowded. Inmates in the National Bilibid Prisons, Philippines as of November 2021, approximately 9.7 thousand inmates belong to 40 to 59 years old. So, can you imagine? For at the range of 40 to 59, it's already 9.7 thousand inmates. How much more if it includes the 18 and above, 18 to 39 and above age range. So basically, daghan na gyud kayo. All in all, without age range identification, there are 117.3 thousand detainees in the Philippines. So imagine it is, I mean, as of November 21. So how much more if we're going to compute it, or we're going to have survey nowadays? So since the populations of inmates are overcrowded or keep on increasing, that's why this is the other issue rather of correctional system in the Philippines. Second, poor ventilation. Low oxygen levels cause poor placement of outdoor intakes or block vents due to room arrangement, indoor air pollutants and contaminants. That's why, due to poor ventilation, there is a huge tendency to spread transmittable diseases and bone viruses, and it also includes allergies, sinus, dizziness, congestions, and shortness of breath. Were you able to capture out or notice the things that katong way back a few months ago, where it was held in the Cebu City Jail, where during the pandemic time, the spreading of virus rather is very rampant. So I think it only has 0.1% to avoid those viruses, since gaduot na kayo ilahang population and due to overcrowded as well. Third, limited food supply. The poor ventilation and limited food supply is due to overcrowded. They are still closely related to each other. Or I mean the main reason, which is that they overcrowded of the inmates. This is one of the rampant issues of correctional facilities in the Philippines: inadequate amount of foods, poor nutrition, and unsanitary conditions, according to the inmates orientation sheet of BJMP, or the Bureau of Jail Management Protection. The right adequate food is in accordance to the prisoners subsistence allowance PSA. Since the number of prisoners were keep on increasing, it would be somehow tough to handle to control foods supply issues. And that's why, based on what we have observed to the other people who have relatives or their family was convicted, they keep on sending or visiting their relative just to give them foods and enough foods for them to eat, since the foods in the jail is just limited. Then di pag yun kuan kompleto. D, inaccessible medical care. Of course, due to overcrowded population for the inmates, inaccessible medical care is very difficult for them to provide. The increasing jail congestion brings about a huge challenge in the delivery and access to health services, especially health care issues again, definitely to the transmission of the disease inside the jail. Yes, based on what I've said a while ago, if you're inside the jail, you have only a little bit percentage for you to avoid those diseases, especially during this time of pandemic. What are the common reasons why people tend to commit crimes? Since the reasons to you'll be put in jail is of course you committed crimes, then these are the following reasons why people tend to commit crimes rather. First is greed, since there are a lot of people who are not satisfied upon what they have in their lives. They keep on aiming those things that of course that can really affect them. Anger and revenge. Due to anger and revenge, people tend to commit crimes. Poverty, lack of financial, they cannot provide their or sustain their needs, that's why they tend to commit crimes. Peer pressure, which is mostly pertaining upon the depressions. And unemployment. Poverty and unemployment, I think this is closely related to each other, which pertains upon lack of financial. For political powers, this is very common nowadays since the election is near to come. So politicians will keep on abusing their powers if they already in the service. Drug addiction, this is also one of the common reason why people tend to commit crimes. Let's start from greed. People tend to commit crimes due to the desire to gain more money. Based on what I've said a while ago, they keep on aiming a large amount of money for them to be satisfied, even though they already have enough. Property or even possessions, it seems that they are not contented upon what they have. Yeah. Greed is not limited to wealth and power accumulation. The lack of social awareness beyond one's aspirations can prevent a person from having compassion for others. Oh, this is greed. They keep on aiming those monies, even though they already have those monies that can sustain their needs. They just keep on chasing monies from their entire life. The following are the specific or the possible crimes can be committed because of greed. Kidnap for ransom, right? Are you familiar to this? You're going to contact or you're going to target those people who can afford to have money, and you're going to kidnap their relatives. It's either their son, daughter, just for the money. Robbery and theft, I think you're already familiar with this. robbery, the differences between robbery and theft. Robbery is you're going to took someone's property with his presence or including your force, and theft without force. Yeah, those are the differences between robbery and theft. Robbery with force, and theft not in the presence of the victim. Estafa, or also known as swindling, under Article 315 of the Revised Penal Code. Estafa is you're going to fool someone in order for you to have or to gain money. You're going to fool someone. And it also includes these scams. Next, other reason why people tend to commit crimes is anger and revenge. Anger focuses on changing or restoring the unjust situation caused by another person. Feelings of revenge focus on bad mindset in which you keep on thinking someone's possibility to fail or how to eliminate him or her. Of course, in your mind, you have a anger, so you keep on thinking how you're going to eliminate such certain person due to anger and revenge. This is the picture. The following are the crimes can be committed due to anger and revenge. The murder, under Article 248 of the RPC, the murder. But before that, we have the elements of murder, which includes treachery. The offender commits crime, any of the crimes against person, applying means, method of or forms of execution. I think murder is under Title 10 of the Revised Penal Code, which is based upon crimes against person, where you're going to kill certain person nga patalikod, and that will be called as treachery. Second is taking advantage of superior strength. Maybe there are 3 suspects and only 1 victim. You're taking advantage of superior strength to purposely uses force excessively out of proportion to the means of defense available to the person attacked. So that's your 3 suspects and only 1 victim. So basically, lupig jud siya since he or she is only 1 and you are 3 or 2. Third, in consideration of price, rewards, or even promises. This must be shown evidence such money or other valuable consideration was used for the purpose of including others. This is very rampant nowadays since the election is near to come. I mean, I'm not generalizing, but based on what I've observed, this is very common nowadays since there are a lot of government officials who keep on paying someone just to kill certain person. They keep on paying to the other person who are the ones or will be assigned to kill that certain person. I mean, that's not generalizing, but based on what I've observed nowadays. D. By means of inundation, fire, explosion, poison, and international damages. It is an aggravating circumstances is one that makes the penalty for the crime committed heavier. Yes, you're going to kill certain person due to fire, pagsunog, explosion, pagbuto, poison, especially poison. This is very common pod. But I think this is letter D, by means of inundation, fire, explosion, and poison, international damage. I think this is very difficult to handle. E. Calamities enumerated with evident premeditation. Can you imagine that during calamities, then you're going to take someone's strength, or you're going to pull, for example, you're going to push someone in a flood, then you know that he or she don't know how to swim, then you'll be accused as a murder in the elements of calamities enumerated with evident premeditation. You don't know that, right? Even I. This pertains upon the execution of criminal acts must be preceded by cool thought or and reflection upon the resolution to carry out criminal intent. You have the intention to kill that certain person. E and F, this is closely, they have the differences. With cruelty is pleasure in inflicting suffering or inaction towards others. Suffering when a clear remedy is readily available. Is one, this number one reason for this is the anger and revenge. Yeah. With ignominy, deep personal humiliation, disgrace, dishonorable conduct and actions. For example, with ignominy, you're killing someone due to his or her conscience or dishonorable. Such as, for example, imong girape ang usa ka tawo while in the presence of his or her relative, which is the reason of his or her death. That would be the precise example of with ignominy rather. So this is the picture from cruelty and ignominy, kidnap for ransom. So these are terms connected with homicide or the classification of homicide. Parricide, killing of someone's relative. Sororicide, killing of someone's sister. Fratricide, killing of one's brother or sister. Matricide, killing of your mother. Killing of mother of his own child. Patricide, killing of father of his own son or if of his own child or daughter. Aborticide, this is very common nowadays since teenagers, the teenagers were the teenage pregnancy rather, yeah. The teenage pregnancy was very common, that then they keep on kanang gi-abort na lang ilang since si ilang bata since they doesn't have enough financial support to support their babies. Aborticide. Torture. Yes, this is the example also, the torture. Have you watched the news about the guy was dead due to the hazing, katong pag malitrato si tao nga tong bata nga gimalitrato sa when he entered the certain fraternity. I can't recall what fraternity is that, but basta the suspect was admitted that they already committed that certain crimes. Number 4, Anti-Violence Against Women and Their Children Act of 2002. Since in the previous era, the women doesn't have enough rights for them to fight for their dignity and rights, yeah. But karon nowadays they already have, since the Anti-Violence Against Women and Their Children Act of 2002 was already implemented. C. Poverty, which is the reason of the main reason why people tend to commit crime rather. This is also one of the factors why people committed crimes. It produces violence because of wars. It's an easy way to get a large amount of money from inappropriate sources. Many improvised criminals feel the hopes to treasure worth the possibility of being caught. This poverty also causes desire and increases crime rates. Due to lack of financial, people tend to accept that certain money, but even though they know that it's an illegal katonggi sugo in order for them you were nasuguan ka nga you're going to kill that certain person for the payment of money due to poverty. This is the picture of poverty where the guardians that doesn't have enough financial support for their children rather. The following are the crimes can be committed due to poverty: robbery and theft, based on what I've said a while ago. The first picture is robbery and theft. This is the second. Swindling or estafa, where based on what I've said a while ago again, you're going to fool someone for you to gain money or to earn money. D. Peer pressure. This could be the areas of brain that center on rewards and race change when teens face outside pressure. They may actually be more prone to criminal activities and other dangerous decisions with friends and opposed with their parents or what they are by themselves. Are you familiar of the word depression, or yeah, suicidal this, or yeah, depression? You're not aware of the things around you, but you keep on minding yourself, which is puro puot inside your heart. Then that would be one of the reasons why people tend to commit crimes. Oh, this is the picture where peer pressure was indicated. The following are the crimes can be committed due to peer pressure. Excuse me. First, first crime can be committed due to peer pressure is the violation of RA 9165, or the Comprehensive Dangerous Act of 2002. Drug, yeah, which it involved drug addiction. Burglary, it is a kind of burglary, classification of robbery and theft, like Japanese. Shoplifting, yeah, shoplifting. It is under robbery and theft ng Japan, just like the burglary. E, unemployment due why people tend to commit crimes. Based on what I've said again, the unemployment and the poverty is closely related to each other, where they are lacking of financial support. Unemployment brought to propel people into crime to enable them to survive economically, and also that unemployment tends to increase the percentage in committing crimes among unemployed people or their criminal behavior. However, if the person has a legal source of income, it will lessen criminal activity rates. Yes, due to unemployment, people tend to commit crimes since they doesn't have enough financial support to sustain their needs. The following crimes can be committed because of unemployment. Larceny, a kind of theft. Vehicle theft and kidnapping. This is very common nowadays, even here in our society. Rape, since they tend to committing crimes, of course they aiming those things that they wanted to do or to have. F, other reasons why people tend to commit crimes. Political power. This is very common nowadays. Political power is one of the most common issues nowadays, why a lot of people commit crimes. Definitely it will lead to political crimes or offenses over acts or omissions which prejudice the interest of the government political system. Where political power, they keep government officials or keep on abusing their powers, since they know that they can handle a lot of people, they can pay a lot of people. They keep on minding or thinking that they can do everything due to their power. But I'm not generalizing all the government officials, but mostly, right? This is the picture about the government officials who keep on abusing his or her power. It also includes the arbitrary detention under Article 124 of the Revised Penal Code, where it pertains upon the government officials or employees who are going to detain someone without any legal grounds. When we say detain, that would be you're going to kulong him, even but you're not in the custody to detain someone just to minimize his unlawful activity. Arbitrary detention, there are a lot of victims for this, but the offenders for this are the government employees and government officials, which is under Article 124 of the Revised Penal Code. Second, slight and serious illegal detention. What would be the precise time that slight illegal detention turned into serious illegal detention, since it is the same from arbitrary arrest, where you're going to detain someone without any legal grounds. You don't have any evidences that certain person committed that certain crimes. So slight illegal detention will immediately turn into serious illegal detention if you're going to detain a minor or a girl. First, you detain a minor or a girl. Second, you inflicted an injury such as phobia, trauma to the victim. And third, if you're going to detain him or her 3 days and more, then that would be the precise time that slight illegal detention turns into serious illegal detention. G. Drug addiction. Another reason why people tend to commit crimes. Drug addiction. In today's situation, substance abuse and crime rates continued to correlate and concurrently. So drug addiction is also the main reason why people tend to commit crimes, since your mind is not in the moderate, wala sa imong panghuna-una gyud that nga nang normal, just since if you're going to use this kind of apply this vice jud, it can really affect your future. The drug addiction. This is the picture of drug addiction. We need to abolish drug addiction. Following crimes can be committed because of drug addiction. RA 9165, violating the Comprehensive Dangerous Drug Act of 2002. Reckless driving or overspeeding, since lami na kay imong mind ana, so pakusog no driving, so that would be drug addiction is one of the reason for this. The RA 10591 or Comprehensive Firearms and Ammunition Regulation Act. This I will not mention the name, but we have the government officials who are very common to this case. Aside from if you have an LTAP or the license to own and possess firearms, then you'll not violate the RA 10591 or Comprehensive Firearms and Ammunition Regulation Act. Pros and cons of corrections. Of course, if we have the advantages of correction, we also have the disadvantages of the corrections. Importance of corrections. First, to commit justice, right? This is the main reason why correction was implemented, to commit justice. Second is to maintain peace. If the person who committed crimes, of course, they are responsible for or reliable for their criminal acts, right? Discipline individuals to avoid all threats, grave coercion, grave threats. We need to avoid that one. So that belongs to the advantages of correction. Cons of correction. Effects on families. Definitely, those person who are convicted, their families will be affected, right? Even though that certain person committed that certain crime, puotra jud sa ilang heart that they will be affected. Second, loss of family connection, since they will be, or their other family or one of their family will be on the proper custody of the law, so loss of family connections. Possibility of a person to be convicted. Yeah, since they are criminally liable upon the things or the violations that they did, they might be convicted for that certain crimes. Questions. So we already tackled about the pros and cons of the correction. So questions. Why do people get in prison? Basically, they committed crimes. That's why they get in prison. Second question, are all prisoners criminals? Would you agree with that? I don't agree with that. I strongly disagree with this question. The prisoners, all prisoners are criminals, since there are a lot of innocent people who are convicted because of the following instances. That's why I strongly disagree about the statement, which is all prisoners committed crimes. For example, were you able to watch the MMK, which is Karen? That would be the one of the instance why people are convicted even though they did not commit that certain crime. Next slide. Possible reason why innocent people get in prison. Mistaken eyewitness identification. mistaken eyewitness identification, just like in an accident or the riding in tandem, the witness will keep on reporting to the Philippine National Police officers that that certain person committed that certain crimes, where in fact it's not. That would be belongs to mistaken eyewitness identification. Incorrect forensic, false of or misleading forensic evidence was contributing factor of someone's imprisonment. For example, in a crime scene, the other example for that is incorrect forensic, meaning the hair or the blood, where the investigator thought that that blood or hair is coming from the suspect, where in fact it's not. It's for the other person nga nagikan na dito, where they gather that certain evidence. So that belongs to incorrect forensic. Why people nga na preso even though they did not commit that certain violation or crime. The following are examples of incorrect forensic hair comparison based on what I've said a while ago. Hair comparison. Microscopic hair analysis involves comparing hair found in a crime scene with the hair of the defendant. Arson. 2 decades of fire research has debunked evidence that was used to convict people of arson. Comparative bullet lead analysis. Yes, in a crime scene, of course, if it involves gun, there are some instances if we can gather, or as an investigator we can gather those bullets in a crime scene. Comparative bullet lead analysis was believed to be able to link bullets found in a crime scene to bullets possessed by a suspect based on assumption that the lead composition in a bullet. So basically, keep on, it is just an assumption, right? This is the other reason why people get in prison for false confession. The first aspect why people get in prison is closely related to this, which is false confession. Is an admission of guilt for a crime which the individual did not commit. Although such confession seems like reliable enough, but there are still witnesses and words that are very harmful that will tend to point out innocent individual. That's why, are you familiar with the line or statement which is looks can be deceiving? They have the quality that the judge the judge that we're going to have the final judgment or promulgation of judgment will get his or her attention in order for you to be convicted for the certain crime that you did not commit, right? Due to false confession. Other reason why people will be convicted is because of official misconduct. An intent to obtain a benefit, injure, or deprive another benefit. A public servant performs an unauthorized act using the power of their office, knowing that the act is unauthorized from performing an official duty for such purpose. Are you familiar with the minor offenses committed by the Philippine National Police officers or the other law enforcement officers? Those official offenses will be classified as insubordination, official misconduct, frequently absences or tardiness, habitual absences or tardiness, and the illegal gambling. Those are the minor offenses committed by the law enforcement officers. Other reason why people will be convicted or will get in prison is because of use of informants. It will always depending on the judicial system. Most informants are criminals who cooperate with the police in exchange of a reduced change sentence or immunity from prosecution. In some cases, honest individuals simply wish and tend to support such wrongdoings. Whatever case, informants often desire to remain anonymous. So these are the 3 types of informants: criminals, citizens, and police officers. So it's either this, it will be keep on depending to these 3 types of informants. Other reason why people get in prison is because of inadequate defense. Means if the accused person does not have an access to or cannot afford a lawyer, the state must provide one of for him or her. Nang, are you familiar with the Miranda rights? See, the police officers were going to say that you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you and the court in front of the court. So if you can afford an attorney, then somebody will be appointed for you. So that certain term, if you can afford an attorney, then somebody will be appointed for you. So those people who can't afford an attorney, then basically they can't defend themselves, even though they are they are stating or tugan sila sa tinuod that they are the victim, but basically they don't have enough money to afford a certain lawyer. That's why that would be the other reason why people or innocent people will be convicted for that certain crimes, even though they did not do that certain crimes. 7. Abusing of government power. So if the government officials or government officers have the enough power, they have the power to inverse or gibali ng kwan that other side will be convicted for that certain crimes, even though they are the ones who did that certain violations. Abusing of power is very common nowadays, why a lot of innocent people get in prison. Sad to say, their power is the route to lead to an evil acts, since they think they can do everything without thinking other individuals who are affected, right? Basically, other people will be affected for that, since the government officials or government officers will keep on abusing their powers. So the following are the violations about abusing of powers. The under Article 124 of the Revised Penal Code, based on what I've discussed a while ago, which is an arbitrary arrest where the government officials or officers were keep on convicting or detaining someone without any legal grounds. They doesn't have any enough evidences to convict that certain person. Next is grave threats for government employees or officials. You're going to have a threat to someone in order for them to have fear nga mahadlok na sila to be convicted. That's why they mabali na ang kaso. Instead that they are the victim, they will be mahimo sila nga suspect. Serious illegal detention under Article 268 of the Revised Penal Code. For arbitrary detention, this is for government employees and officials are going to detain someone without any legal grounds. But here in a serious illegal detention, it's for private individuals. It's a student, the tambays, or the other people who are not under the government, just like the private manager. So if they are going to detain someone without any legal grounds, then they will be convicted under Article 267 of the Revised Penal Code, which is a serious illegal detention. Next slide is the court stages. Arraignment plea. An arraignment judge will formally state the charges against the defendant. If bail has not yet been set in the case, it will be addressed at arraignment. Then the defendant will be apprised of the rights and asked to enter a plea to the charges. Pleading not guilty, or perhaps the most common plea entered in criminal court, even if a person believed they are guilty of the offense. So in arraignment plea, which in a court process, it involves plea bargaining, or plea means you're going to admit that you do or you did that certain crimes. But just like, let's have an example, the RA 9165, which is the Comprehensive Dangerous Drug Act of 2002. You are convicted for that certain crime, then you're going to admit that you committed that crime, but for the paraphernalias only. Di ka mo admit that you nakuhaan ka drugs, but for the paraphernalias already. then the bail will be vanish away since you already admit na ka that you did that certain crimes. Then the bail will not be, wala na, the bail will not exist at all. Plea, a formal statement based on what I have said. A formal statement by or behalf of a defendant or prisoner stating guilty, I am guilty to that certain, yes, I admit that, Your Honor. Muna mo yun na ka in a court. Or innocence in response to a change offering an allegation of fact or claiming the point of law should apply. Plea bargaining. It is a disposition of criminal charges by agreement between prosecutor and the accused. The accused and the prosecutor in a criminal case work out a mutually satisfactory disposition of the case subject to the court approval. Since you already admit that you did that certain crime, then it is considered already as a mitigating circumstance since you admit that you did that certain crime. So the sentence for that conviction or the penalties will lessen. So that's the other advantages of plea bargaining. Nolo contender rather. Nolo contender means it means that I do not wish to contend. That would be the precise meaning for nolo contender. Second, for the arraignment plea under the court stages is pre-trial, which under the revised rules, the following shall be done during the pre-trial hearing: making of evidence, comparison of the original evidence. Before the trial, this trial will be held. Yeah. Next slide is pre-trial agreement. All agreements or admissions made or entered into during the pre-trial conference shall be reduced to writing and signed by the accused and counsel. The issues to be tried or resolved, the documents or exhibits to be presented stating the purpose. So pre-trial agreement, this is before the trial where the witnesses were going to spread out or express what they witnessed in a certain crime in order that the accused will be convicted for a certain crime or violation. Pre-trial order, it shall be indicate that the case shall be submitted for summary judgment or on pleadings without need of position paper or memoranda. It is the stage of court proceeding before the trial. So after this one would be the trial. The importance of the pre-trial is that it allows the parties to explore the responsibility of an amicable settlement or an submission to alternative modes of dispute resolution. So in next slide, the trial, it is a hearing in a court case, a test or hardship. Basically, it is a formal examination of evidence before the judge and typically before a jury jurisdiction in order to decide guilt in case or criminal or civil proceedings. In trial before the promulgation of judgment, that the Juan de la Cruz versus the people of the Philippines, guilty without beyond reasonable doubt for the certain murder, article 248 of the revised penal code. But isa na siya after the trial, which is the jurisdiction. Then how important is trial? Basically, it is very important since in a court process or stages diri mahibalaan, and before this one, after this one, mahibalaan that certain person will be convicted in a certain crime. Next is jurisdiction, or also known as the judgment in a court stages. In a law, it is a judgment, also spelled judgment, is a decision of a court regarding the rights of and liabilities of parties in a legal action or proceeding. Jurisdiction also generally provide the court's explanation of why it has chosen to make a particular court order. So in a jurisdiction, based on what I have said a while ago, Juan de la Cruz versus people of the Philippines, guilty or acquitted anang that certain crime. So jurisdiction or the judgment is also known as the promulgation of judgment, where, what do you mean by promulgation? Promulgation is a formal formal information of prosecution or prosecution that certain person is guilty or acquitted about that certain crime that he or she had committed. So basically, that is how jurisdiction process would be. Next, these are the types of jurisdiction. The original jurisdiction, the court that gets to hear the case first. Second, appellate jurisdiction, the power to higher court to review a lower court decision. Example of a higher court, Supreme Court, which is considered as the highest court in the Philippines. Lower court, the municipal trial court, metropolitan trial court. So the higher court, which is such as the Supreme Court, will going to kilitis or review the lower court's decision for that certain crime. Then third is exclusive jurisdiction. The only court can hear a specific case. Next slide. Ecclesiastical jurisdiction signifies jurisdiction by church. This is for church leaders over the church leaders and over the laity. Jurisdiction is a word borrowed from the legal system which has acquired wide extension in theology, wherein, for example, it is frequently used in contradictions to order or to express the rights to administer sacraments as something added onto the power or to celebrate them. So, next slide. Do you agree about the following statements? You cannot go to jail unless you violated the law. I strongly disagree about these statement rather, since based on what I've said a while ago, the instances or the cons of the corrections, which it involves the following cases or following instances while people get in prison even though they did not do or did that certain crimes. So that's why I am strongly disagree about this statement, which is you cannot go to jail unless you violated the law. Second, all prisoners committed crimes. I also strongly disagree about this statement, since not all prisoners committed crimes. There are a lot of innocent who are convicted to that certain crimes, even though they did that certain violation. Next, classification of criminals. Habitual criminals. This type of criminals violates the law because of financial crisis. It also involves or pertains upon the unemployment and the cause of poverty. It belongs here in habitual criminal. They are involved in anti-moral and anti-social behaviors here in the following examples. Gamblers. They tend to enter gambling since it's their habit. Drug addicts, prone to, since habitual, they keep on using those illegal drugs even though that it's not good for them and it can really affect them. Drinkers. These three are all vices of the person which people tend to commit crime. So these three examples belongs to the habitual criminals. Then next is correctional institution. In Cebu Provincial Detention and Rehabilitation Center. Basically, it was clearly stated there that it was located in Cebu. Second, New Bilibid Prison. Kawanihan ng mga bilangguan. Third, Sablayan Prison and Penal Farm. Fourth, Iwahig Prison and Penal Farm in Puerto Princesa. Then, after the habitual criminals or the classification of criminals, second would be the legalistic criminals. The legalistic criminals are those who violates the law due to ignorance about the crimes and its consequences, or to those who are the victims of unjust law enforcement. The habitual criminals and legalistic criminals are just closely related to each other, since it also involves the drinkers, gamblers, and including the drug addiction. Then third is the moralistic criminals. This type of criminals is those who are involved in socially and morally prohibited activities. Fourth is psychopathic criminals, those who are not able to adjust to control their behavior in a legally defined manner, such as criminals are suffered from mental diseases like superiority of inferiority complexes. Psychopathic, from the word itself, it is somehow tough for us to understand their case, since they have a little bit an inappropriate behavior. Those are the psychopathic criminals. E. The institutional criminals or white-collar criminals. White-collar criminals are those who committed crimes against institutions such as the following: bank fraud. Those criminals are trying to engage the potential opportunity to gain money or earn money or even property in a bank. Income tax fraud, professional cheating, and professional cheating. Next is situational or occasional criminals. This is classification of criminals includes those criminals who are the outcome of a sudden situation due to a specific occasion he committed in a certain crime. Just like such an example, during election, there are a lot of crimes had been committed because of election. That would be an occasionally crime that they did. Professional criminals. Professional crimes are those who have adopted crimes as their profession, and to them, crime is their full-time job and source of income. Professional crimes would be those criminals who already have the enough knowledge to do that certain crimes and a huge type of crimes in order for them to earn money, or that would be their source of income to sustain their needs and their wants in their lives. So, professional crimes or criminals. Organized criminals, it is considered as the most dangerous criminals. They are threat to stability of the state. They are professionals and organized in a large group. They have their own criminal culture and learn new variety of activities. One of the best example for this are the NPA or the rebellion, since they have the strong beliefs that they are going to fight their beliefs, or they have certain, what do we call this one, their certain principle that they're going to fight against the government. They think that would be the precise thing that they're going to do in order for them to have their peace, to spread peace in our society and including their society as well. Next is juvenile delinquents. The violation of the law by a child is called juvenile delinquency, and the child is known as the juvenile delinquent. So, based on what I've said a while ago about the forms of repetition or kinds of repetition, number 1 is recidivism. Under paragraph 9 of Article 14, it is one of the most fundamental concepts of criminal justice. It refers to a person relapsed into criminal behavior, often after the person receives sanctions or undergoes intervention for a previous crime. And then the person who belongs to recidivism is called as a recidivist. That certain person committed the certain crime twice with the same title. For example, crime against person under Title 10. If I'm not mistaken, crime against person. What are the examples of crimes against person? Murder, and under Article 248, murder and homicide under Article 248 and 249 of the Revised Penal Code. So, though if you are convicted in a previous year about murder and with the crime murder, then after you're serving the sentence, then you committed again the homicide, then you'll be considered as a recidivist, or that would be the precise time that it is a recidivism. You're going to commit to the certain crime with the same title, crime against person, or it's either crime against property. Reiteration or habituality under paragraph 10 of Article 14, where the offender has been previously punished for an offense to which the law attaches an equal or greater penalty for two crimes to which is it attaches a lighter penalty. This is a generic aggravating circumstances. Why? Since you committed certain crime, then you committed again another crime. So this reiteration is closely related to recidivism, but the difference would be in recidivism, you committed that crimes with the same title. In reiteration, with different title. It's either crimes against person and crimes against property. For example, I committed in the first conviction, I committed crime against property, such as robbery. Then after serving my sentence, after how many years, I committed again crime against person, which is murder. Then that would be the precise time that it will be called as a reiteration or habituality. Next, habitual delinquency or multi-recidivism. Article 62 of paragraph 5 of Article 62. Where a person within a period of 10 years from the date of his release or last conviction of the crimes is found of the said crimes, a third timer or an offender, this is an extraordinary aggravating circumstances, is considered as the extraordinary aggravating circumstances since you committed within 10 years you committed 3 crimes. It's either with the same title or different title. As long as you committed that 3 or more crimes, then that would be the precise time that we're going to call it as a habitual delinquency or multi-recidivism under Article 62 of Paragraph 5. Last is quasi-recidivism, where a person commits a felony before beginning to serve or while serving sentence on a previous conviction for a felony. This is a special aggravating circumstances cannot be offset by just an ordinary mitigating circumstances. Excuse me. The offender must have been previously convicted by final judgment and before beginning to serve such sentence. So in quasi-recidivism, while and before, while and after serving your sentence, you committed the crimes. For example, you're serving twice, but it is under the revised penal code. If you committed that certain crimes, for example, I was convicted of murder, then while I'm serving my sentence in the jail or prison, then I committed another crime which is under or punishable by the revised penal code, then that would be the precise time, then it will be called as a quasi-recidivism. Next, differences between the violation terms. Crime, an illegal act for which someone can be punished by the government, such as a gross violation of law, a grave offense especially against morality, criminal activity, efforts to fight crime, something foolish or disgraceful. This crime would be very punishable in our society. That is a crime. Second, an offense, violation of the public rights as opposed to private ones. So there are some instances or special law that would be called as an offense for a special law. Question: what are several examples of a crime? So these are the felony crimes and offenses. So those are the differences. So here in felony, it would be you're violating the crime, but it is punishable by the revised penal code. Typically, one involve violence regarded as more serious and usually punishable by imprisonment for more than a year or death. What are examples of felonious act? There are a lot of examples about felonious act which is punishable by the revised penal code. So next, several options to avoid long-term imprisonment. If you committed crime, offenses, or felony, so we also have the several options in order for us to avoid imprisonment, but in case-to-case basis. First, bail. Are you familiar with bail? If we're going to translate it in our vernacular language, that would be piyansa. Bail is a set of pretrial restrictions that are imposed on a suspect to ensure that they will not hamper the judicial process, and it also the conditional release of a defendant with the promise to appear in a court when required. Bail is piyansa. Yes, you're going to pay. Yes, you're going to pay. Of course, you're going to pay in order for you to be free. But bear it in mind, while the nang imong kaso while it is still processing. For example, 1 year pang nag-process, you're going to pay for bail then gawasa ka. But your kaso is still processing. That is bail. Who keeps bail money? Of course, the person who going to keep bail money is the sheriff who is assigned in your case. Different types of bail. Sorry for that error. Number 1, surety bond. A bond that is paid by another person, often a friend or a family member, to ensure that accused returns to court. This is other classification or types of bail. There are 3 classifications of surety bond. Secured. The full amount of money will be paid. That would be the precise time that it is secured. Partially secured, 50% had been paid. Unsecured, saad only. You're going to state only that you're going to pay that certain bail. That's why it is called unsecured. Second, appearance bond. A bond in which the accused is responsible for the bond amount. 3 classifications of appearance bond. Just like in a previous, secured, fully paid, partially secured, 50%, unsecured, it is just a yaw-yaw or a formal speaking. Yes. Somehow like that. Next is insurance company bond. A bond that is paid by bond company. You will pay a non-refundable fee or premium and deport collateral to the company. So, basically, you're going to have in your company, your mungi atas nga, that certain company will pay to your bail or piyansa. Property bond. It is a real property given as security for the amount of the bail. It posts the value of tangible property in order to obtain a pretrial release from jail. In order to obtain a release from jail, what do you mean by tangible? Mahikap. If you have the property, aside from cash, then they also receive a property for you to have a temporary freedom in a certain case or your offense that you committed. Then other reason to avoid imprisonment, of course, from case to case basis. Probation. It is a privilege granted by the court to a person convicted of a criminal offense to remain in the community instead actually going to jail. So probation is the other way. For example, what is probation? I was convicted for a robbery, then nasentensya, or a theft, nasentensyan ko mga 1 year and bisag 2 years. Then I was na prison ako mga 1 year and 1 month. Then the remaining 9 months, if you're going to form or to file motion then sa jail, then I'll be considered as a petitioner. But if my probation will be declined or reject, then I will be considered as an absconding probationer. If I am convicted for 2 years of robbery, then I already served the 1 year and 1 month sentence. Then the remaining 9 months will be served outside the jail na. Then you're going to report na lang instead of mapriso pa ka. Then who can apply probation? Those already serving sentences at the time the probation law became applicable. Those previously convicted of an offense and punished by imprisonment is not less than a month and a day, or fined not less than 200 pesos. And other instances, in order for you to apply probation, is you're not convicted or you haven't used uses or wa pa kagamit sa imong probation since you're intended to use only once ra kausara, then you are not convicted of the crime against national security and public safety. Third is your sentence is not exceeding 6 years. If you have sentensyan kag 6 years and 1 day, then it will immediately reject, then you cannot apply probation. Then fourth is if you are convicted in a previous year or months, then it was exceeding 3 months, then you're immediately rejected about or in applying probation. Importance of probation. The government spends much less when an offender is released on probation than that offender be placed behind bars. The offender or guilty party are spared the embarrassment and dishonor of imprisonment. So it is definitely important, the probation, since the offender was given a chance to magbago, and you're going to serve it instead of inside the jail sa gawas na. You're going to report there, but there are a lot of instances or kanang nang responsibility nga mo report sa pod ka. Next would be parole. A promise made with or confirmed by a pledge of one's honor, especially the promise of a prisoner to fulfill stated conditions in consideration of his release, knowing that the fact that parole is not a right but a privilege upon the good behavior observed, allowing them to have fair opportunity to rehabilitate is what can bring the exchange to them. So if you are while serving your sentence, you have a good behavior, then wala ra say mga troubles while you are serving your sentence, then when you're going to apply parole, then ma-approve, then sa gawas you're going to report na lang after serving the sentence. This would be applied. How important is parole? So these are the following importance of parole. It reduces prison and jail population, since if you're going to ma-approve ang makuanan kag parole, gawas naman ka automatic. Then it reduces taxpayer expense. It rewards those who are willing to work for it, less hassle of course, and it allows criminals to avoid recidivism, committing crimes twice with the same title. For example, crime against person, based on what I've said a while ago. Crime against person, crime against property, crime against national security and public safety. So those are the different titles can be committed. So it must be the same title in order for you, or in order that it will be called as a recidivism. Lastly, nullum crimen nulla poenas nilige. So this simply means that if there's no crime, there's no law punishing it, right? It's definitely right. So that's all, and thank you.